Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Unquestioned Podcast with Debaere and Willem Himpe. We are back again this week, and Louis, looks like you're not abroad, or are you still in Italy?
I am back in Ghent in my white room.
I'm still in Amsterdam, so boring or excited at the same time. Well, maybe quickly, now that you're back, you're probably already feeling after a couple days, I need to get back out there, or no? Or is there still now a little bit of calm time at home, I would assume, and maybe in the future, another trip planned?
Some calm time. I do go spend time at the Belgian coast as well.
Mm.
That's a refreshing change.
But maybe a lot of listeners don't know that all the international ones, or maybe American ones, don't know that there's a Belgian coast to which, let's say, Badstad or City. You cannot translate it literally, I think. To which city do you often go then in the coast?
Yeah. Go ahead there to have coffee. Basically, do what I do here, with the sea nearby.
Okay, but you go like to Ostend, or you go to Knokke, or you go to...
Knokke. I'm a fancy
Okay.
Yeah.
Here in the funny thing is, here in the Netherlands, it is, and people go to Noordwijk, or some to Zandvoort, or like, I think those are the two mostly known.
That I've done actually. The difference, the Belgian coast is full of buildings, and some people don't like seeing all these buildings all right there. Like you don't have that on the French coast, for example. But I don't mind. Makes for like a lot of restaurants right there.
It's true. I love it as well when there's a little bit more kind of, it feels civilization at the coast, and not just...
Yeah, and they actually could start a discussion about like a human centric worldview, or like people that are more nature first, that seek, like, go to the woods and seek. I'm always most amazed by what we create.
True. I think Belgium has a nice balance that we try to combine a little bit. That's limit the buildings and keep a little bit of the nature. Like some coastlines in America, I think it's like or in Miami and stuff, is like massive apartment buildings, and it's then a little bit less nature. But of course, they have a bigger coastline than us, so we cannot maybe compare. Okay, but talking about America, I think we have a couple of topics we want to go over today, and maybe now a good one is Trump, because Trump actually has landed in Alaska to there do talks with Putin. Maybe it's besides that topic. Maybe now he's 6 months into his presidency, and it's maybe good to know from your side, Louis, what has your feeling been this 6 months? Has it been worth it? Has a kind of, okay, it's his second time as a president, but the big kind of I don't know, promises of really making the economy strong again and fixing a lot of stuff. Do you feel like this 6 months has been the case or not?
Oh, yes, I put this on the docket because I had a discussion with a friend. Like I always bring up the fact 77 million Americans voted to put Trump in office for the second time. And yeah, this friend's response was, yeah, maybe they thought that was a good idea, but do they have regrets now? And me personally, I am sometimes a little bit worried, not as worried as as the journos, the traditional media, about the authoritarian tendencies of the Trump regime. I think they exaggerate those, but I sometimes do like get the feeling like, wait, like they really want to everything and use and abuse every law. Yeah, maybe I was hoping for a little bit of common sense, like the um, the major, I think, idea from the left and from the Democrats, or from the Trump, the other side of the Trump camp, is please have some decency, have some manners. Norms are here for a reason, and Trump is breaking all the norms. But at the same time, if he wants to use a law, the law is there for a reason. And I also get the impression that, like, Democrats are like, yeah, the law is there, but actually you should do what we think is good and civilized, and that also doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I do hope that since now like the anti-woke and the rebels are kind of in control. But the the backlash against woke is not too big, that the pendulum didn't swing too much to the right, because we're seeing that, like, for example, on social media, the White House used to like celebrate indigenous people, minorities, their typical topics, and now it's all about like send people back, enforce police and everything. And that's not so bad, but I feel like that the amount of, I don't know, I think they can have some decency, and they're not helping their cause or the cause of America in general by being so like on the nose and pushing down like, oh, we are now in control. That being said, yeah, go ahead.
I would add on that, like maybe my point of view is two things that I've seen is where Elon Musk, like one of the strongest technology leaders of our time, that really said we have to clean this up and started Doge. And I was in the beginning very hopeful of this because I thought this would, for not only America, but also in a lot of other governments, would be an incentive like, this is right. We are spending a lot with not immediately effect on people's life. But then you saw actually he retracted a little bit out of the public office because it's still a lot of bureaucratic and kind of powers in place, and that they cannot so quickly do a lot of change in cutting budgets and kind of making the whole government a lot more lean. So that's kind of one thing I was expecting Trump to be able to push a little bit more his veto or his power, but I didn't see that coming true. And another thing I thought, because now that's a little bit more a Republican was in power, is a bit of the reduction of laws instead of adding more laws.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a beautiful thing of adding more regulation so that markets, or let's say no bad players can act badly, but sometimes it's also really good to reduce laws to kind of give a little bit more freedom into the market so that things can speed up. I don't know the specific details, but I was expecting a little bit more of that happening, in my
You're right.
opinion.
You're right. Cut the regulation. That was a promise. We have seen regulatory clarity, at least
Hmm.
around cryptocurrencies, so around stable coins, which are
Hmm.
one of the major like winning use cases. And we see that the US wants to be ahead there. I don't remember, but I think there's also been some AI changes, the AI law changes. So that's good. And if we go over all the like different rebels, because there's more than just Musk and Trump, the media will not report on the good stories per se. We've got RFK Jr. is now
Hmm.
like head of the
Health or
yeah, yeah,
something like that.
FDA or more, the health services in America. And I was surprised, well, not yeah, not so surprised that we didn't read anything about the fact that food stamps, which is the mechanism, I don't know if there's a different word for it, the way you can get help and like buy food and necessary groceries if you're
Food stamps
eh,
and stuff like that.
yeah, if you're in
The
a poor
Social
household.
Security.
So it turns out that almost 20% of food stamps, so that is your tax money being used to benefit the more needy people that are down on their luck, that need this, were being used to buy soda and like sugary drinks that are eventually bad for you. So what you had was a system where, as a taxpayer, you're like keeping people hooked on these unhealthy drinks that they
Dopamine,
should totally be allowed
sugar
to
rush.
drink, but that's not what the food stamp service should be used for, because then they end up with diabetes that you're also on the hook for.
Yeah.
Um,
The problem with that is you cannot make people, definitely in America, the land of the free, say these are food stamps and you can only buy them by salad or very tofu or
well, you can't because you can't buy everything with them.
I know you can with them, but it's like you as a government wouldn't be able to push that on to people. Like we want to make people have healthy
But yeah,
food
yeah,
and
yeah, and then you should be free to, yeah, you should be free to make yourself unhealthy. I know for a fact that in Italy, not the food stamps, but the meal vouchers that you get, Same incentive exists in Belgium. It's like a daily allowance that are supposed to use for
For
lunch, for
lunch
food. Wine, you can buy wine with that in Italy. I don't know if you can
in
necessarily in
Belgium.
Belgium. I can. You use
Maybe in
okay.
Belgium it's beer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But maybe it's so ingrained in the Italian culture that it's gonna stay that way. But yeah, the media doesn't say anything about that, and obviously
Mhm.
Coca-Cola is just silent about this because they benefit massively
Honestly, yeah.
from having this subsidized the demand basically, and they wouldn't want this to go away. So that's a change that could have been made 10 years ago. The statistics were there, and even though we might have wanted to see more big wins, I think we should be reminded and we can celebrate those, and let's see
Mhm.
what's coming.
Okay. Well, talking about subsidies, I think maybe a good other subsidy that the government of the United States thought was really well was student loans. Well, that as well kind of now notoriously has been in the beginning a very good idea, but as well maybe based off the data has not been that effective. So maybe you before or in one of our chats gave a good statistic about a person with without a degree about their salary. I don't know exactly. Maybe you could share with the listeners.
Yeah, I think it's because of the economical situation that you're now no longer better off with a degree in the US. I don't know if it's as a somebody starting in the workforce, but it's quite a strange difference. It could be temporary, but
Basically, if you start in the workforce with or without a degree over the mid and long term, it won't affect your salary.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, and it's probably boosted by the fact that not blue collar jobs, but like trades are getting paid very well. So if you install something like AC, if you're doing HVAC or whatever it may be, you are gonna be paid well. And what we're seeing with AI is that white collar jobs, sitting behind a computer, those may get eliminated first before we get
mhm.
to the real world jobs where you have to move around in your, your specialist van and touch things, break things, fix things manually.
Because a lot of these loans were usually for, I don't know, I will use my own words, but jobs where you have to think a lot and sit, let's say, behind a desk or where you have to take actions. And a lot of these jobs we thought would not easily be taken by AI, but it's very quickly that those ones are being automated or helped with these systems. And I would on top of that is still like a doctor and so on. They still need their degree. They will not benefit if they don't have a degree, but just the amount of jobs where actually you could learn it by yourself, or you can very quickly start and make a good amount of income and don't have to get a student loan and immensely start with a massive debt once you start in the workforce. That bucket has grown a lot, which is a benefit actually for any future generation. Only problem is that there's this massive generation. Sadly, like I studied in the United States at the University of East Carolina. And there as well, when I talked with my friends, it was always one out of two people that shared with me that they had student loans outstanding and often not even very big, sometimes very big if they were in state or out state. So there were like good things if they remain in a university in their own state and they had to pay less so they could take smaller loans. But even sometimes they could pay themselves, but it was like logical. Like I'm going to study. I'm not going to spend, I'm just going to get a loan because everyone's getting it. And then I can enjoy my college experience a lot more. But it's a
Yeah,
bit
maybe you
then.
should backtrack and like explain the field to both Europeans and Americans how different it is because it is quite different. It
Mhm.
starts with Belgium and I think other parts of Europe. In Belgium, we may have one of the cheapest and highest quality
Education
university systems
systems, true.
because even like it's let's say about 1,500 euros for the course, maybe excluding the books. So very attainable, and even and if you can't afford to pay that, there's even support you can get. So it becomes only a couple of hundred of euros per year to get Ivy League level education, you could say, that
Correct.
everyone can start, except like if you want to become a doctor, then you need to take a test. But otherwise, you can attempt any higher education course. Now that's the situation here. And in the US is the only country where it costs tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes per semester, per year, to study at a brand name university. And still, people come from all over the world to the US because these universities are known. We've all heard of Stanford, Harvard, Duke, all these.
MIT.
Yeah, yeah. And so that must be worth it. But how did we end up in that situation? Because you and other people can attest to the fact that the quality of the lessons is not 10 times better, sometimes at the same level as Belgium.
Or
But
even
yeah,
I'll let you continue.
yeah. Well, yeah, or you can jump in with your perspective. And
Well,
yeah.
one thing I'll jump in with my perspective is, for example, when I started at the University of East Carolina, I was thinking like, okay, this is going to be the same level as Belgium, but it was basically, let's say, a level or two, three below, because it's, first of all, because there's a lot more universities, and these universities are sometimes not as research intensive, and are as well, like, because there's so many, I think as well, it gets people that can become a college professor, or as well because so many people with these loans they pushed to get into education, or into, sorry, getting higher degrees. It sometimes lowered a little bit a barrier of entry, and as well, let's say, the lowered the level of education. And with other friends that I've heard who went through the highest, like the Harvard,
Mhm.
the Stanfords, and when I asked with them, like, listen, my university in America, I felt like as a European extremely smart, and I was like intelligent, but I was never the smartest in my class.
Yeah, clearly.
There, regularly, you have to get it from your co-host. That's what I like about you, just honest
No,
truth,
no.
truth
That's a
in my,
joke.
no,
That's a joke for the
no,
people.
for the people. But when I asked actually him, he said that the level of university in Belgium, like University of Leuven, Ghent, and so on, was exactly the same as the Ivy League. It's just very extremely difficult to get into those universities. So kind of the people that graduate are very, it seems like they do a lot of good for the world, but they have already been kind of, the university itself, they have the same lessons, the same chemistry, the same as they have in universities in Belgium. It's just extremely difficult to get in, and they put the barriers so high that only the best of the best get
Yeah, and
in there.
it's harder to get in than to follow than to just finish the course.
Correct.
It's about similar, like I went to the something called the Apple Developer Academy
Hmm.
in Italy, and no one actually knows what happens there. So the important thing is that I went and that I put it on my LinkedIn, but what I actually saw there doesn't really matter. Like, you can just make up a story
Hmm.
about like how prestigious that is or how special I was to be selected. And it's kind of similar here. The quip I always have is people prepare, make up this incredible resume. They have the GPA system, a standardized test to show where you rank amongst your peers to get in, let's say, Duke University. But then in the end, we all then to follow the
Same
same
lessons.
Indian professor on YouTube explaining them the same physics. So in the end, we all watch like the same videos on YouTube, let's say before the exams when there's a concept that we don't get. So it's definitely no longer about the information. The information is free, and there's
Hmm.
something to be said about following up and a personal approach and asking questions, office hours, everything like that. That is immensely valuable. But yeah, certainly the brand plays a bigger part.
I think it's the brand plays a bigger part, and just like you have Apple Academy is kind of a stamp on your resume, or you as a person. It's the same for a lot of people from a university degree, but it is step by step, like, say, reducing in value, because people that, for example, when they're 18 and they start their own, even very simple, let's say, cupcake company, and they go through adversity and have to learn all these things by themselves, this person might be a lot more valuable than a person that has gone 5 years with a business degree but never really started a business. They know everything from top to bottom, but have no clue how to, let's say, file in their taxes of their company. So that's kind of a little bit what I hope that's going to happen.
But how did we
More,
get here, though? How did we get into this situation?
but for me, I cannot speak about America specifically. I can say a little bit about Europe. It's comfortable. It's scared to go. People are still a little bit risk averse, and it looks like I can get here a degree, which I just have to spend money and time and effort in for 4, 5, 6 years. And then I will have a piece of paper where the community or let's say this country says like, oh, you are valued and you can work hard. So now I will pay you a salary for the rest of your
You've proven that you can like pay attention, right?
or pay attention, write
Your
full
memory works,
sentences, and
and I mean, it's not. I certainly don't want to dismiss. It's still a big undertaking, especially depending on what you study. And maybe you have to work during the year as well. But I was mainly curious, like, how come the situation is like that in the US and nowhere else? Why are the prices of the universities so high?
Dubai, the price is also high. Again, I'm not an expert on the topic, but what we've seen is that in the past, it was a lot cheaper to study, but the government wanted more and more people to be educated. So they started giving these very cheap loans to people like, oh, whoa, I can now I'm 18, or for example, even I'm 30, because I saw often like even older people at university in America get a cheap loan, do my studies, and then because I get this loan and get this certificate after 4 years, I'll be able to earn a lot more. But and by doing that, the university saw like, oh wow, suddenly you have so much more students coming in and so much more money. Let's invest. Let's add to tuition, and let's build more buildings and do a whole student relaxation center and
Yeah,
do this. So a lot of kind of investments went in, also into research and so on. But very often, I have to look more at the data. Like every dollar you as a student pay in tuition, there's only a very tiny percentage that goes into research or into improving the education, and a very big part into a lot of other stuff that doesn't immediately help the student. And this was like a vicious circle of constantly more and more tuition, more and more
yeah,
loans need to be given. Why this student loan, let's say, bubble has grown so.
yeah. It's really a cautionary tale about government intervention. The intent certainly sounds good. We want to make university attainable for everyone. But what happens is, if you know that somebody's guaranteed to get a loan for something, which is what's happening, like the government has this like monopoly is saying like, hey, more and more people are going to be able to afford to pay for this.
Mhm.
Then why would you not raise prices and keep the supply the same? So it's because
This
the government is not letting
force,
the market do its thing. It's like the signal is just so, yeah, that's what subsidy does. So I think we should be careful letting that happen elsewhere.
correct. And we see it in everything. Of like, a stupid example would be if every bread you buy or every a Big Mac, and the government says, I will give an extra dollar so you can buy your Big Mac for every Big Mac you buy, then every Big Mac will just be €1, €2 more expensive. So
Yep, yep.
it
And
doesn't really.
sometimes there's a few steps in between that, but in the end,
Correct.
that's what happens. So yeah, I mean, it's quite funny because America is known to be like the land of the free, and we want autonomy from the state. And then you see that there, the federal government does really like affect them in a big way.
And maybe not in a direct way, but it's with, like you said, the different steps with all of stakeholders. But eventually they see the results, which are not always the same result where the input was intended to get. So hopefully, I really liked maybe how we came to that conclusion. Maybe to end this podcast, one last thing I would still wanna share is, I still love America as an amazing, great country, and I still want to live there and go there. Okay, sadly, Europe has perfected living. I still live here, but still, now below my 35, 40, I still feel like a lot of business and opportunities are still
You're on the
over
record.
there.
Yeah.
It's
Thanks
on
for
the
the
record, so
invitation.
definitely you have to come with if we start a company there or move to the land of the free. But okay, it's a bit every country. There's some stuff that's not work the most efficient, but okay, they still have that one figured out in opportunity and let's say grow yourself, your net worth, or grow as a person in an amazing economy. Okay, Louis, anything else to
No, yeah, that's a very moving eulogy. I agree. It's come up multiple times. Europe has perfected the art of living. And for most people, I think you're better off here. But if you're obsessed and you're chasing extraordinary outcomes, America is there.
place to be? Voila. With that, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you back to another episode next week of the Unquestioned
Unquestioned
Podcast.
Podcast.
See you soon, guys. Bye-bye.
Ciao.